Welcome back to the Freedom and Flow podcast. Today's episode is all about that space between the vision you've been holding on to and the reality you're currently living in. You know that moment when you see something so clearly for your life, whether it's a dream, a direction, or just deep knowing, but it hasn't quite materialized yet. That waiting space can feel messy, frustrating, or even lonely, but it's also where growth, faith, and resilience are built. Today, I am joined by a wonderful friend, Gabriella, a powerhouse in her own right, someone who knows what it means to hold a vision, believe in it, and stay committed, even when life hasn't fully caught up to that dream. So, we're diving into what it takes to keep going, stay grounded, and show up for the future you see, even when it feels far away. Let's dive into it. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Freedom and Flow podcast. My name is Leandria, and I'm your host, and I'm so happy that you're here. The Freedom and Flow podcast is all about breaking free from the things that do not serve us, embracing flow, and living in our purpose. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm just so excited because I have another wonderful person in the room who just is going to bring so much great joy, passion, energy, and insight as we talk about this topic: vision, belief, commitment. When you see it, but you're not living it yet. Take a moment, breathe that in. This is also kind of like a part 2 to the last episode that I released, which is around the waiting season, that in between. But I feel like this is really honing into like our vision and our dreams and the things that we've seen for ourselves, but we don't see it happening yet. So we're going to dive in. And so I brought a wonderful person along to talk about this great topic. Her name is Gabriella Wolson.
Hi.
And I met Gabriella how many years ago?
Like 5?
5 years ago? Only? It feels longer.
For sure.
A decade. Gabriella is a coach. I'll let her introduce herself. But I met her through my brother, and my brother and I work together. We met through resume writing, but over these 5 years, she has become a friend, confidant. She's coached me informally. She didn't know it, but she was. And I'm so happy that she's here. So let's give her a round of applause. Welcome, Gabriella.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here.
So yes, feel free to just share a little bit about yourself so the folks get to know you.
Sure. Well, thank you for that intro, and totally ditto. Leandria, you're one of my favorite human beings on this planet. Seriously. But yeah, as Leandria said, I am a career and personal development coach. So effectively what I do is I sit in a chair and incredible humans pop up on my screen and we get to talk about what their dreams are and then make them come true. It's awesome. And I specialize in career. I don't only work in career, but I specialize in career and in particular career search, and even more in particular for like junior professionals coming straight out of college, dealing with that transition to adulthood. I live in Connecticut, just outside of New York City. I have a 2-year-old son and another son on the way in literally a matter of weeks. But my true love really is my puppy Nash. And yeah, I love to dance. I'm passionate about my religious faith, and I keeping up with politics and giggling. That's why we're here, right?
Yes, exactly. So as you all can see, just an amazing person. And maybe you told me, and maybe it's just registering, but I didn't know that you're having another boy.
And a second boy.
Second boy.
Yes, I'm now at this point where I'm very, very excited, and I now I just only see myself as a boy mom, but it definitely took us a minute. I was just like, intuitionally like convinced that it was a girl. So
Mhm.
it wasn't even a question. So when the doctor said it, I actually went, "Oh, you're joking." And he was like, "No, I'm not joking." So
Well, wonderful. Whether it's a girl, boy, whatever, you are a great mother, and you'll continue to be a great mother. And Nash is boy, girl,
Nash is a girl,
girl. Okay,
and
there
she
you
just had her birthday last week. She turned 4.
go. Well, happy birthday, Nash. Yes. So let's dive in here and this topic. So vision, belief, commitment. How do we even choose this topic? So I asked Gabriella, I was like, hey, do you mind being a guest on the podcast? She said yes. And then I was like, what do you want to talk about? She was like, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, I really gave you a lot of guidance there.
I was like, I have no clue. There's so many things we can cover under the sun. And then I went to one of her pages. I'm not sure if it was LinkedIn or the actual newsletter. And I saw vision, belief, commitment. And I was like, that's it. That's what we're talking about today. And specifically, vision, belief, commitment, that space between when you see it, but you're not living it yet. And everything in between. I mean, I want to take this conversation wherever it naturally goes. But that's where we're going to dive in tonight. So, as we continue here, I would love to just start off with vision. And this is a question for you, Gabriella. Where do your visions tend to come from? Are you a dreamer, a planner, a journaler? Like, what does that look like for you?
Wow, that was such a good question. I was so prepared to like talk about vision from like a very like heady perspective and like what I see for other people, and you went right in. So that was awesome. So for myself, I really I do a lot of visualization, but not in kind of the more standard way. I'm not like a big meditator. I'm not like a big kind of like sit and breathe and just think about something. But I do notice that I am someone that, particularly when I'm alone, maybe I'm driving somewhere, that I really, I visualize, I can see what I want to create for my own life, what I want for my life. And it comes very naturally to me. I would say it didn't always. I think there was a lot, a lot of times in my life where I was like, I don't know who I am, what I want. But I think at this point, I have so much clarity of like, oh, this is exactly what is most important to me for my life in the next 1 year, 5 years, 25 years. I can really see it. Um, and so yeah, but really it's that power of visualization, like actually seeing it, feeling it, like I can almost put myself on the other side of it as if I'm there. And then for fun, then I like to make a vision board, and I leave my vision board. It's right there to the left of me. I can see it as I'm sitting at my desk. And you know, I never know how much I buy into woo woo stuff like that, but I'm like, why the heck not? It's there. I see it all the time.
And it's a good reminder of what you see for yourself. So, with that, I'm curious, can you think about a time when you had a clear vision, like you talked about, like it's very clear, a vision for you, for your life, but you weren't living it yet? And what did that feel like?
Yeah. So I would say a little under a decade ago, Um, I was in my mid 20s, and it was that awkward period where half of my friends were married and half were still like losing their phones at the club every night. Um, and I was very single, and I was very depressed about it.
Mm,
Very. Um, in a way that wasn't just like, oh, I want a partner. Like it pained me. I think I can trace it a lot back to like childhood trauma, childhood structures. I was an only child of divorced parents. I really wanted to feel like I had that solidified partner and that security in that relationship. I think is why it was so important to me. But I kept seeing friend after friend, getting married and being happy for them and thinking like, I was the one that wanted this first. I was the one dreaming about this all the way like in college, and now everybody's passing me. Um and it hurt. I mean, I literally remember going to my aunt's like 30th, 35th wedding anniversary, and like this is a generation above me, whatever. And I was there, and the band was playing some like love song,
Mm-hmm.
and I just started bawling, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to like run away because um I knew deep in my soul that it was something that was important to me. I knew deep in my soul I deserved it. I knew deep in my soul that, well, I was going to say I knew deep in my soul that I could get it, but I definitely went through periods where I was questioning it. Um, and I just couldn't get there, and it hurt so much.
Yeah. I was just hearing you talk, and it sounds like this vision that you saw for yourself was like deeply embedded in your body, and knowing that it wasn't currently in your life, and you can feel like you could feel the pain and the aches and the groanings, I don't know,
Yeah.
all in your body. So with that, like how did you navigate that? Like how did you, between that place that you were in to now you're married, you have a grandson on the way, you got a dog, all the things, how did you navigate, be able to navigate yourself through that season?
So, and I promise with every ounce of me, this is not a plug, but the biggest turn was when I got a coach. um, Totally a story for another time, but I won 4 sessions with a coach at a fundraiser. I wasn't seeking one. I didn't know what a coach was. And it completely just like blew up my life. And this was among a lot of other topics like being in debt, relationship with my parents, things like that. This was the topic because it brought so much pain. And I think that a lot of the work that we did was in, yes, I was clear what I wanted, but bringing it back to this topic of vision, like what actually was my vision for how I wanted to feel in a relationship, what I wanted my partner to actually really be like, what
Mm,
was it that I needed? And I got clear on that. And then I got supported through the process. So, um, I remember one time I went on, I think, two, maybe three, but I think two dates with one guy. And when he said he didn't want to go out again, I was like straight out of the movies, depressed, like eating ice cream, drinking wine on the couch. And I call him my 6 day boy because why did I completely fall apart after 6 days? And and so it was these experiences that I got to process with my coach to learn from. Not only was I triggered, but maybe like how was I showing up? And who was I picking? And what was happening with me getting attached and then getting so upset? And even after my very first date with my husband, um, I didn't know if I wanted to go out with him again because he was short. I will never forget that coaching session, and my coach always reminds me about it. And we talked about it. We spent the whole session, and I guess I'm kind of glad that I went out with him again.
yes. And that really well for you.
Yes, it did.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you really were doing the work. So even before that proposal, the marriage
Mhm.
came, like you were doing the work around yourself, getting really clear on what does it mean for me to be in a relationship, to be married, like how do I want to show up in those spaces. And I think that's important that you're pointing out two things. One, when it comes to vision, I think sometimes we get into like business or career or what, like you're referring to your life and the things that you want for your life, which is so important. So getting really clear around that, and then also doing the work, not just sitting around eating the ice cream, like woe is me type of thing. And we can, that there's spaces for that too, definitely space for that. But also for the majority of the time, you were doing the work. You were putting in the steps it took to prepare yourself for what that vision looks like. During that process, whether it's with your relationship or any other vision you've had, like how do you keep your vision clear when life just gets noisy? Like when you just feel like things are just popping up, distracting you, how does that show up for you, or how do you show up when you're in that space?
Yeah. Um, so I think to answer that, I'll take kind of a half a step back, which is kind of how at least I define vision in general,
Mm-hmm.
which is really just what is your vision for your life? And it could be as nitty gritty as I want to marry Chris Pine, or it could be like I want to experience life from joy and curiosity and spirituality. And when you have a vision, particularly when it's a little less nitty gritty and specific, but that's okay too. But when you have a clear vision of kind of just what you want to experience, who you want to be around, um, how you want to feel, what you want your day to day to in general look like, that becomes your North Star. And your North Star guides everything from the deepest place of like, where should I live and what should I do for work to what should I get for lunch, right? Everything can connect back to that North Star. So I think when life starts to life, or I get into overwhelm, or I'm not reaching the specific tangible goals,
Mm-hmm.
I always connect back to, well, what would my North Star say, right? Because the vision itself isn't going to change. I mean, it might in little ways as we grow and learn and experience new things. But in general, my vision for my life won't change, but maybe what that tangibly might look like in terms of what job I'm going to have, where I'm going to live, that can shift. So I always, when I'm in it and I'm overwhelmed, or I have big decisions to make, or something's not coming true, or I'm getting derailed, I just check in. Well, what would my North Star say? What would my North Star do? What is the thing that actually gets me to the joy that I'm looking for, to the love that I'm looking for? Um, and I just let that lead me.
That's good. What is your North Star? That's something I need to sit on myself. What is my North Star? I feel like I know what it is, but to actually like define it and say
Mhm.
like, well, maybe I don't know what it is because I can't define it. But there's essence of it that I feel like I could identify, but just to be able to really sit in it and understand like what is my North Star, I think it's a great practice, and I encourage everyone to do that. I also encourage everyone to like, subscribe to this
Oh,
podcast,
yes.
to comment, share what is your North Star, or share what your vision is. I would love to see that. So we've been talking about vision. I want to move us into belief. So seeing it is one thing, right? But believing in it constantly, that's really where that inner work kicks in. So on your journey, did doubt ever creep up for you?
Oh, heck yeah. And probably every single day.
Mhm.
Right? Like, yes, I can say what my vision is, but do I actually believe that it will come true? That is the second step, and that's hard. That can be really
Mhm.
challenging. Um, but there are tricks that I have found that help me stay in my belief. So, for instance, making sure that I celebrate the progress that I do make.
Hmm.
So if I haven't hit my milestone or my overall goal or a major, major aspect of my vision, that doesn't mean there isn't stuff to celebrate, right? Am I learning stuff along the way? Am I taking a tiny baby step outside of my comfort zone? Making sure that I'm actually celebrating the progress, the learning, the journey, um, that because like accomplishments beget accomplishments. Confidence begets
Mm.
confidence, right? So if I can stop and acknowledge, wow, I did this thing, it's going to keep my belief up because
Yeah.
I'm going to see, oh, look what I accomplished. There, I have reason to be confident to go forward. So that's a really huge practice. Um, I'm also like, another practice I do is like get out like literally and figuratively, like of my body, all of the fears, all of the judgments I have of myself. So doing some sort of exercise, I personally, I call the clearing exercise, and I'll write down all of the fears, all the judgments I have, and what I think that means about me. And I'll write it in really nasty ways, like as if I was the playground bully. And then I'll go through and ask, like, is this actually a fact? Am I actually this horrific thing? And I'll be like, no. And it reminds me that, like, it kind of gets all of those stories out that live in me all the time. It gets it out so that I can kind of baseline get clearer on myself
Yeah.
again.
So good. I just want to call out a few things. Like, one, celebrating yourself. I think for some it might be easy, for others it's hard. I am the others where it's hard for me to celebrate myself because I'm constantly moving the needle around, like, what is the success or what is the accomplishment. And so if I move the needle, then I'm like, well, I haven't finished that next accomplishment. I can't celebrate yet. But it is so powerful to do that, because it helps you to realign yourself back to realign. It helps you to realign yourself back to your vision and believing that, like, yes, this is for you. So that celebration, the acknowledging yourself, and if we think about it, I know people say it all the time, but they say it's not about the destination, it's the journey that takes you there. And so really being able to sit in, like, how am I showing up in this season of my life, even before the the thing that I want comes into fruition? How am I choosing to show up every single day? And I think that's a powerful thing. It makes me think back of when I started my business. So I also have a coaching business. It's not as great as Gabriella's, I will say.
Stop.
So I started the coaching business. One, um, people would tell me, well, not people, I would tell myself all the time, I'm not an entrepreneur. Like, that's not in my blood. I don't have that.
I held that story too, and definitely still do. So I see you.
Yes, I would tell myself that all the time. And then I went to Atlas, and we'll talk about Atlas another day. But went to Atlas, and it helped me change my story. Like, it really helped me to live in, like, do you want this? Go after it, type of thing. And so I went after it. I started my business. I did the LLC, and then I was just doing things. I don't think I really had a North Star. I was just, okay, my business has started. I got to get clients. I got to market. I got a social media. I got a website. And I was just doing all these things, and it felt like noise, essentially. And it was good noise, but it just felt like I was all over the place. And I started in March 2022. I can't remember, but I
We'll
remember
go with it.
March. And then December came, and I felt like I did nothing.
Mm.
I felt like I did nothing. And I was talking to someone, and they asked me, like, well, along the way, did you set goals for yourself? Like, were you able to kind of break down, like, Q1 is what you want to do, Q2? And I was like, no, not at all. So I had, in not setting goals, I couldn't celebrate myself. I couldn't acknowledge myself because I was just doing the thing. So all that to say is, as you're thinking about your North Star, getting really clear on what that looks like. And then along the way, give yourself landmarks of, I made it 3 months doing this thing. Let me celebrate myself. I made another 3 months doing this thing. Let me celebrate myself. Because that's very, very important. I wonder when it comes to belief, like, how does trusting yourself fall in that space? Like, the importance of trusting yourself on this journey.
I mean, I think they go completely hand in hand. I would even like use one to define the other, because, right, like, yes, I know you and I both believe in spirit. We both believe in destiny. And at the same time, we work hand in hand with that. My number one favorite saying, which I know you're going to laugh, is if it's to be, it's up to me, right? We need to create it. So even if we're feeling fearful, confused, not confident, it's still up to us to trust ourselves that we do have what we need in us so that we can be in action. If we don't, why? I mean, honestly, if I don't think I can create something, why would I spin my wheels? It's just not logical.
Yeah.
Why would I? That's a waste of time. But if I believe not only that it's up to me, but that it can rely on me, I can then the doors are open to be in action.
Absolutely. This is so good, so good. So, we talked about vision, we talked about belief, trust. Let's go into commitment. Commitment is the part where it's not always glamorized. It's maybe the end goal is, but the commitment to get there is not always glamorized. And showing up even when the vision hasn't arrived yet, I think is so important. So, what does commitment look like when the results haven't shown up yet? Like maybe you're putting in the work, you're doing it, you're doing all the things, celebrating yourself, but it's just your vision hasn't arrived yet. What does commitment look like in that space?
I think it's the consistency and the consistency definitely of action, but even just like the consistency of keeping the vision and the belief alive. So always being, whether it's a vision board or meditation or talking about it with someone, making sure that you're not just, oh, and then these kind of goals are going to be put over here. Or, oh, I'm totally stepping out of self-belief because, it hasn't happened yet. So why would it happen? Right? Love that story. Commitment is, I am so committed to myself that I deserve creating my vision that I'm going to do whatever it takes. With that said, I think within what I like to call this umbrella of commitment, I think there are things that you can do, right? So we are talked about being in action, right? Action, like I kind of said earlier, action begets action. So even just asking yourself, what's the tiniest baby step I could take today, right? Forward is forward. Doesn't matter how fast you're going. Also, in general, how are you taking care of your well-being? It feels like it's like a separate topic, but if I can't pour from an empty cup. So if no matter what I'm creating, any area of my life, big, small, whatever, personal, professional, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself to actually create it, right? So, and well-being from physical well-being to emotional, spiritual, mental, your overall lifestyle, financial. If I'm up to big things, I need to take care of myself first. So a huge part of commitment is just wellness practices, even if they're not directly connected to what you're creating.
If I'm up to big things, I need to take care of myself.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, we are all up to big things. No matter what that looks like for you, your North Star is a big thing. And
Yeah.
that's a great question. Like, how are we taking care of ourselves in a way that speaks to me or you or whatever that looks like? I just want to summarize what the things you were sharing. One, taking action, being consistent in this action, baby steps. I always like to say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
So good.
It makes so much sense to me because the elephant is huge. It's like, how do I eat this? It's just have one bite at a time. And then self-care, like really being present with yourself. My therapist always has asked me that a couple times now, like, how are you? What are you doing for yourself? And I think sometimes I can normalize work being self-care, like where I'm just like doing things because I know it's a progression forward for whatever goal that I have, that is that yes, that feels good, but it's still work at the end of the day. and how can I break myself away from like the work, the doing, and just being like watching a TV show and not being on my computer type of thing. Watch the TV show and enjoy it. Like Abbott Elementary is great for that. If you're just sit and watch that show. So I love those aspects around consistency. Can you think of a time? I know you're talking about relationships, but can you think of another time where that consistency served you well?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think to kind of almost piggyback off of your previous example, I think building my business, completely echoing you when I took this leap. So I've been coaching for 10 years with, but my first 5 was kind of on the side. I have been full time in my business for 5 years. And I also held the story that I was not an entrepreneur and I had no idea how to build a business. But again, talk about vision. The reason I still did it was because I was so clear that this was the work I wanted to do and this was the personal lifestyle I wanted to have, is like not working for a boss. And I had to do a lot of freaking work to, as you said, put down the story that I'm not an entrepreneur and just hecka put myself out there. This is not what I would do today, but my first like 6 months of my business, I literally went through my phone, and I probably have, I don't know, 300, 400 phone contacts. I went through my phone and texted every single person to have an individual call, even if I hadn't talked to them in years, even if we weren't close, just to practice personal connection and being intimate, practice sharing about my business, and making sure that every person in my life knew what I was doing so that they could refer somebody to me eventually. Even if they didn't have a referral that day, that 2-3 months from now, they would be talking to a friend and they'd be like, I feel lost in this area. And they'd be like, oh, I have somebody. So like really the commitment was like, I'm going to just put myself out there in ways that, let's be honest, were not comfortable to me. Not at all. It definitely felt like I was spinning my wheels. I had maybe one client, for many, many months. But I just kept at it. And now I'm at a place where I'm trying to take stuff off my plate. It was really just showing up, stepping outside my comfort zone, continuing to be in action, even when I started to doubt that I was going to be able to build this. And I did.
You did. Now you find people, you asking people, you like trying to take things off your plate. It's like, I can't take this. You got an overflow, which is good. Yeah. And what I'm hearing as well too is that commitment often shows up in the quiet, uncomfortable, behind the scenes moments. And I think sometimes we want the glamour, the acknowledgement. Oh, look at what so and so's doing. When those are definitely moments that will come, and we want to embrace those moments. But most of the time, people won't see the work. They won't see the work that you're putting in. And I think it goes back to your North Star, that vision, trusting yourself in this process, and knowing that you are working every day, step by step, to get closer to where you want to be. Even though everyone may not see it, you're staying committed to your goals and to yourself. Yeah. Just the last couple of questions as we'll wrap up here, and we can both answer this. So a lot of what we're talking about is this in-between phase, this space. What has the in-between season taught you about yourself?
Wow. Well, firstly, what I'll say is these 3 words, this vision, belief, and commitment that you pulled from my stuff, that comes from what I like to call my equation for getting unstuck. So that is what I'm also relating to how you're talking about in this in-between season, right? When you're like, I kind of know where I want to go, but I'm not sure. And I kind of feel like I should have done it a while ago. And I got right. What's coming up for me is a lot of what you were talking about earlier is about really living in the journey. Um, as I shared earlier, I'm a dancer, and there's a quote that has lived on my wall for I think 6 years in my office that says, the point of dance is not to get to a certain a certain place on the floor. It's to enjoy the movement on your way there.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to forget it all the time. Like, please, like, I am an all talk girly right now, but it's so true. Like, I think sometimes I find in myself that I think, oh, well, life will begin when I get to this thing, or
Mm-hmm.
joy will begin when I get to this thing. And I have to remind myself all the time, life is happening right now.
Yes.
It's happening right now. And so, yes, of course, it's totally fine to have a goal, and it's totally important to have vision and to work towards something. But also, like, it's to make mistakes, and it's to giggle, and it's to learn, and it's to take breaks, and it's to try things that are totally outside your comfort zone and sometimes work and a lot of times don't work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think a lot of that comes down to presence, patience, um, keeping up your belief, going back to that word, and yeah, I mean, I think that I'm in a really in between season myself, even though I'm about to hit a lot of milestones that I've set for myself. I also think that there's like, there's an aspect, there are aspects of my vision right now that I know are not being touched upon at all. And I could take it where I beat myself up and I judge myself, or I'm like, why haven't I been doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and instead, it's like, okay, well, let's look at what I am doing. Let's look at what my plan is moving forward. Let's look at how I can get supported. Let's look at what I've learned. Let's look at what fears and stories are coming up that's holding me back. And also, let's just like give me a little bit of grace.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because we're all hecka human.
Yeah.
And also, we're all doing a lot.
A lot for sure. I appreciate your authentic response, and I will answer this question as well. What am I learning about myself and my in between season? Is that one, my timeline of things, like I can have a vision, right? And I can have a timeline, but my timeline isn't absolutely truth.
Mm,
And that my timeline can be considered and my timeline can be incorporated, but to hold it as truth, I've learned does not serve me well, because when the timeline doesn't work out, then I guilt myself. I'm like, why me? Woe is me. And I didn't get this at the time I wanted to. So I'm learning that this in between season is all about releasing my timeline. It's about flow, and hence this whole podcast around living in
mm-hmm.
freedom, embracing the flow. And when I do those things, then I find that I'm living in purpose, because I'm no longer bound by time and what I believe time should be. Again, I'm still committed. I'm still believing for things towards my goals, but I'm not so stuck on time that it takes away enjoying the present moment of where I am.
Beautiful.
So, as we wrap up, my last question for you, which is we're going to address to our listeners here. Is there any advice you would give to someone listening who sees something for their life but feels stuck? And I mean, you've been giving advice this whole time, but any last words that you would give to someone that feels like they're in that stuck space and wants to move out of it?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm not sure that I could cleanly bottom line all the things that I touched upon, but I will bring up one thing that I haven't brought up yet, which is around the importance of support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did you know that you and Beyonce have the exact same 24 hours in the day? Isn't that crazy? And think of what she can accomplish. And the biggest difference is her level of support.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And so it takes a village is not just a saying. It literally takes a village. This is how we as humans were designed. And we need to rely on our support structures. And whether that's simply for emotional support, whether that is delegating. I mean, my mom recently retired and she's like, let me do some work for you for your business. Now, I don't think she has the technical skills to, but she's offering. And, it's that kind of stuff. Like, can you hand things off? Who can you rely on? And even like really like support structures that are standardized, like therapy, coaching, a consultant, an accountability structure, right? Like, hey, I want to make sure that I do this 3 times a week. Can I check in with you and tell you every time I've done it? Scheduling, right? Put it in your calendar. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to do this, but actually, Thursday at 4, I'm going to do this activity. Give yourself maybe power hours. I'm going to be really productive for this next hour. We talked about delegation, prioritization, giving yourself rewards, continuing education, learning more about what you're doing so that it can be more in your comfort zone, in your wheelhouse. These are all support structures, and we literally need to be utilizing them because we're only human and our visions are too important.
Too important. Beautifully said. Support, support, support. It's so true because, yes, your vision's important. North Star is great. And it can be really hard to do it by yourself on the way. So wherever you can leverage support, do that. And so as we wrap up, if you're listening and you're in that in-between space, let this be your sign to get support, but to also stay connected to your vision because it is so important. And if you're up to big things, you got to take care of yourself too. So let this be your time to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You don't have to figure it all out. Just stay in alignment with what you know is for you. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Again, like, subscribe, share this podcast. Also, Gabriella, I want to just give you space to share anything that you're doing in your coaching world, to share your services. Feel free to do that now.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, if you want more information about me and anything that I offer, my business is called Realignment Coaching, but it's spelled pretty funky. So it's RE-ELLIGNMENT Coaching. And as I mentioned, I'm about to go on a nice maternity leave. I do have an online course that is asynchronous you can check out called Career 2.0 on my page. And other than that, I am still taking some discovery calls to just kiki about your vision and see if there's anything I can do to support you.
Wonderful. And shout out to you for the asynchronous course.
Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Well, thank you all so much for listening in, tuning in. If you like this episode, there's many more. Please check out my page on Spotify, YouTube, all the platforms that are out there. And continue to live free, embrace the flow, and stay in your purpose. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.